Start your week smiling with your friends, Kathy Zant and Michelle Frechette. It's time to get ready for some weekly motivation with WP Motivate. Happy Thursday, Kathy.
Happy Thursday. Going into a holiday weekend.
Woohoo! I have guests coming. Well, a guest coming.
Do you?
From Sunday to Wednesday, Naisha Green is coming. She's bringing her camera, and we're
Cool.
gonna go out and do some photography together and get garbage plates. And if you are from Rochester or ever been to Rochester, garbage plate means something to you. If not, Google is your friend.
Awesome. That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah, hopefully it will be. Yeah. Might even go to we have a Memorial Day parade in Hilton every Memorial Day. At least I assume they'll have it this year. And it ends at our gazebo. And then the dignitaries say nice things about, those that have, been lost in wars, foreign and domestic, or whatever they say that. And then our marching band plays. I used to be in the marching band a million years ago. And I remember
Yeah.
like standing there in the heat. It'd be kind of fun to take some pictures of that too. So we'll see. I don't know. And then they provide hot dogs
Nice.
for the community. So if you want a hot dog and a water bottle, you go to the community thing.
Awesome. That sounds so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Do you have plans?
No,
Good for you. I had no
I have
plans last
secret
weekend and it
plans.
was beautiful. Oh, you have to tell me later. Oh, I wanted to talk
Same.
about. Go ahead. Sorry. I
No,
didn't mean
I
yeah.
got nothing.
Okay.
And my internet connection is unstable, or so I'm being told. So if I'm flaking.
If you're flaking, I'll just cover. I'll start singing or something. I don't know. So we have we have a fan. We have a super fan. Mike
We
is our
do.
super fan. And now I know
Hi,
that every
Mike.
time we mention him, we make his day, we make his week, whatever. I want to play into that as much as possible. And so I know that I'm older than a lot of other people, and I am still young enough that this was not my thing. I mentioned things that happened in the 20s. I promise you, I was not alive in 1920. But Jimmy Durante used to say, "Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are." And so and I think that was one of his teachers in high school or something. So I messaged you last night. I'm like, I think Mike is our Mrs. Calabash. I think we have to mention him now at every episode. Like, so okay, hi Mike, wherever you are.
Hi, Mike, wherever you are. We'll see you on Twitter. We'd like to know what you think about this episode.
That's right. Give us your feedback, sir.
Yeah.
But speaking of Twitter, you put a tweet out this morning that I really liked. And
Yeah.
it really resonated well with me. You said, somewhere in the world, a stranger remembers you because you were kind to them. And I thought that was really, really nice. And you've got a lot of people that have kind of commented on that too, which is super sweet. Like Dave Den said, I get a really warm feeling in my heart when I see random comments on my YouTube videos that say simply thank you. That's motivation enough to carry
Yeah.
on. And I
Yeah.
commented, and actually I commented, and then I sat here at my desk crying because even though it was 1988 that this happened in, and I'm so many years beyond 1988, I remember being at my grandmother's funeral. I was a freshman in college, and freshman or sophomore, gosh, I can't remember now. I started, yeah, so I was a freshman in college, and um, my grandmother passed away, and I was sitting at the funeral, and I was kind of in the hallway. Everybody was kind of in at, the viewing hours or whatever, calling hours. And I was just kind of crying, and a woman came and sat down beside me and just sat with me. And I didn't get her name. She didn't say, "Oh, it'll be okay," or any of those platitudes. She just sat with me. And then when I had pulled myself together, she patted my hand and got up and walked away. And I've never forgotten the kindness of that stranger. And I was, what, 18 going on 19, 19 going on 20, something like that. And I remember thinking, 19 going on 20, I can't math. I remember thinking after that, in the moment, I was so in my grief, right? But I remember thinking after that,
Yeah.
that you don't have to know somebody to have an impact with your presence. I don't think I called it kindness at the time, but with your kindness. And, I've talked over the years about the random acts of kindness, but that intentional acts of kindness are even better. And that woman,
Yeah.
it was random that she came across me, but she intentionally was kind to me there.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so your tweet just kind of really resonated, and I appreciate it. I think I saw it like I saw it. I was like, nobody's commented on that. I was like, oh, she posted it 11 seconds ago. Well, let me hop right in there. It was very, very sweet.
Yeah. And Angela Bowman, do you see her comment that
I
I think she
did.
just wrote it recently. An Uber driver in St. Louis, you, I think I think you have left a trail of strangers throughout the world, remembering your kindness to them, which, yep, I believe it. You're a
Oh,
force of kindness. That's
that
the
was very
title of
sweet.
this episode, The Force of
Kindness.
Kindness. And
That works.
you have to watch the episode to get that Michelle is the force of kindness. So,
Wow. I actually bookmarked that. Let me see if I can find that. It was I think one of the very first things I ever bookmarked. November 3rd, 2019. Um, Angela boasted, I chat up our Uber driver and ask her if the people at our conference were nice. She says, "Oh yes, I made a new friend named Michelle from Rochester. She gave me a gift in her card and told me to contact her when I visit." And that just made me laugh because I remember the
that's
conversation. I remember the
hilarious.
woman. Yeah, she lived in
Yeah.
in St. Louis, but her husband was working in the hospital here as a doctor. And so I was like, "Well, when you're in Rochester," she never did contact me afterwards, but it's nice to know I made an impression.
Yeah. You make a lot of impressions.
I
You
think
do good for the world.
Thank you. I think we all do, right? So, I was talking to somebody the other day and I mentioned a different name and they thought I was meaning you. And then I said, no, that person never said that. And I couldn't remember what they're talking about. And they pulled up your your profile and I said, oh, that's my friend Kathy. Yes, of course. She's awesome. So you just never know. But
Yeah.
it reminded me this thing called the paradoxical commandments. And there are
Hmm.
10 of them. I don't know that we have to read them all, but let me give an idea. This is by a man named Kent Keith, and he penned this back in the 60s, 1968, in a pamphlet titled The Silent Revolution: Dynamic Leadership in the Student Council. He was working at a college. Excuse me. But it starts out with people are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway.
You think? Okay.
You
I'm
know,
sorry.
right?
I had
Oh, interrupt at will. I love it. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish, ulterior motives. Be kind anyway, which is very true. I get accused of that. Believe it or not, I do get accused of that by people in the
really
community. Yep. That I'm just in it for myself. I don't think I am. Maybe other people do, but I
let
try to
me
do
add
good in the
them.
world.
I've been working out. Let me add them.
Yeah,
Get
and
ready
then
for this.
here's another one. If you are successful, you win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Not always. We know that for a fact. It's not always forgotten. Honesty and frankness make you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. The biggest men with the biggest ideas, can we replace that with people? Because this was written in the 60s. The biggest people with the biggest ideas can be shot down by the smallest people with the smallest ideas. Think big anyway. People favor
Hmm.
underdogs, but follow only the top dogs. Fight for the underdogs anyway. What you spend years building could be destroyed overnight. Build anyway. People really need help, but may attack you if you do help them. Help them anyway. And give the world the best you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth, but give the world the best you have anyway. And I just really liked that. I had remembered hearing about that, and so after I read your tweet, I went in search of that. I didn't know what it was called. I didn't know who had written it. Um, but it's kind of like one of those mantras that it's like I realize that sometimes people, I've said it before, I am not everybody's cup of tea. I'm okay with it because I don't need to be. I'm just still going to be who I am anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of gosh. Well, there's two things that pop into my mind as you read all of those. The first was, you know, being raised Catholic, I start thinking about like the prayer of Saint Francis of
Hmm.
Assisi about, Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. That like there's going to be BS in this world. Just get out there and be the good one, be a
Hmm.
force for good. And no matter what the external circumstances are showing you. Um, and then there's this thing that's been going around social media about let them, if
Hmm.
someone disappoints your expectations, let them. I've had to do a lot of that letting go, dealing with my family members, a teenager
Hmm.
and a stroke patient. just let them. Just let them. They'll figure
Yep.
it out, right? Because just the attachment to expectations of other people, they're going to disappoint you. They're going to
Yeah.
let you down. Um, and I think all of this and why it resonates is because it's a message to us to live our truth. Because
Mhm.
in reality, the external doesn't matter. It's what you do. Are you congruent with your integrity and who you are? And what story are you telling yourself about the external, right? Because sometimes people are unkind, but what are they going through, right? Everybody's
Mhm.
going through something. What
Yeah.
story is most useful to you about whatever they're going through? And it's like really, I think what I get from all of it is just prioritizing your integrity and prioritizing your mental health above all else. And if you have to tell yourself a lie about what other people are doing, lie to yourself if you have to, frame it in a way where it just doesn't matter. Because really, when all is said and done, the external isn't going to matter, but your integrity and staying true to who you are is all that matters.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Um, it's at the end of the day, you're the one who has to lay down your head on your pillow with the thoughts that are in your mind. And
Yeah,
so being true to yourself, obviously not intentionally hurting others, right? Because that's not necessarily true to yourself either. But being true to yourself
right,
is so important because you can sleep a lot easier when you have been
right.
who you are at the core. And
Yeah,
sometimes it
and
takes us a
really,
while to figure that out, who we are. But yeah.
like a lifetime of
Yeah,
figuring out who
because
you are. Yeah,
we change.
yeah.
We're not infants for our entire life.
I
So
was, yeah,
we learn and grow.
I was listening to this podcast the other day, and the guy was talking about how who you really are at your core is pure. Who you really are is the blue sky without any clouds. And the
Mhm.
clouds come in, and sometimes rainstorms come in, but the blue sky, the integrity of what is always there, no matter what might come to block it. And I've just been sitting with that of just like when, I've had some challenges this week. And when those challenges have happened, it's like I just blue skies. I'm just like resonating to like being in integrity of like who am I really, that this is, these are all just passing events, right? Everything that you're soaking in right now that seems like a negative or seems like a judgment or seems like, a lot of cleanups or a lot of cleanups. Oh geez, Michelle, did I tell
Yeah.
you I had a lot of cleanups?
You may have mentioned it. Not only like
uh,
metaphorical, but also physical. So yes,
yes.
you did.
I
Um,
have had
when you
stuff.
said when you said the let them part, it also reminded me that we're not here to fix other people, right? Like people ask my
Right.
advice, I am so happy to give it. But if people are talking to me and they don't want my advice, I'm not going to give advice, right? Because unless, of course, if somebody's in danger, I mean, there's always the outliers. I'm not talking about that. But it reminds me to, in conversations, you listen to hear, not listen to reply, and listen
Yeah.
to respond and listen to fix. And as a mom, it took me a while to understand that my daughter had reached adulthood and that I only offer advice when she asks me for it. And so now when she comes to me with an issue, I will ask her, would you like me to listen only, or are you looking for inputs and advice as well? Because sometimes she just
Smart.
needs a safe space to vent. And sometimes
Yeah.
she needs me to tell her my thoughts so that it can help her guide her to the right decision. Whether mine are right, my answer is right or wrong, it'll help her in the thought process. And I'm not saying that I'm always right, because trust me, I'm not. But letting them is also listening without I mean, without judgment as much as we can. We're human beings and we always have judgment in our heads, right? But there's judgment
Yeah.
as an assessment, and then there's judgment as in um what's the right word? Like when you're just like not vindication, but like that kind of like negativity. There's judgment without negativity, and there's judgment that's entirely centered on negativity, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah,
Discernment. It's
discernment.
very
Thank
important to
you.
have discernment.
It's a good
Yeah.
word.
Like it's been hard because I know by every stretch of any imagination, doing the physical therapy exercises every day would
Hmm.
is in my husband's best interest. It's in my best interest, but he doesn't want to do them. So it becomes
Yeah.
a fight.
Yep. Yep.
Where do you do,
And
it's in let them. I'm just going
let
to
them.
let him.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what brick wall he has to hit in order to find his motivation. Um, but I am in let him
Hmm.
phase with that. A lot of that with the teenager too, where it's just
Yeah.
like, we'll see how this goes. Hey, did I tell you it's less than 800 days? Today is my
Oh, but I love that. I love it.
that's
It's
it's
funny.
like less than 800 days until she turns 18. And she's like, you make me feel bad when you say that. And I'm just like, I'm just
Claire,
counting it
you could
down.
make it so that I feel bad about it being less than 800 days, or you can make me glad that it's less than 800 days. It falls in your court, Claire.
It kind of is. And part of me is like super sad that it's like that, but
Yeah.
you know,
Did I
but
ever tell you
I
when my daughter turned 9, I had a bit of a meltdown. Like, obviously not a full blown like put me in an institution kind of thing, but I had to cry because I was like, I've had her half of the time she's gonna be home with me. She's
yeah,
gonna turn it. No, joke was on me. She was home till she was 22. I could have waited another, 3 years to have my little meltdown. But I remember at 9 years old thinking, she's been home half as long as she's going before she goes out into the world as her own person. And I remember thinking, I gotta make the most of all this time. But then there comes a point where you're like, are you leaving soon? Because this isn't working anymore. So I looked back when she did move out at 22 and she moved to Buffalo. I was like, oh, I didn't want this to
you
happen,
for
and yet I was ready for this to happen. So yeah,
yeah.
it's
See, my
hard.
son, he's been gone for a few years now, and I was not ready for that. Yeah, he left before I was ready because,
Yeah.
and I still would like him. Maybe not back in the house. I don't think he would like that, but
But nearby.
closer, closer. Yeah, that'd
Yeah.
be
Lydia's
nice.
about a 90-minute drive. She's 70 miles away. And
Yeah,
so
that's not bad.
we have to intentionally visit each other. We can't just drop in. That was her decision. I'm also not the drop in kind of person. So, but she wanted some distance. And so I respect that. So when we see each other, it's because we make plans and want to see each other. But also,
Yeah,
like when my dad passed, she was here. She got in the car and she drove in because she could. She didn't have to book a flight. So I get it. It's nice to have them close enough to not have to make big plans to see them. So I feel
right.
that pain for you.
Yeah, it's tough, but he called. The good thing is like he has on Saturdays he helps a friend of his out with some stuff, and so he has a drive, and so
Hmm.
he calls me on the way back. So we end up having a long talk every Saturday night.
Nice.
That's my date for now. I'm sure
I love
someday,
it.
it'll be a woman that we'd rather talk
Sorry.
to instead of mom. But right now, I'm gonna soak all of that up because, yeah, he's a good
Absolutely.
kid. I've got good kids. I've been very, very
You do.
blessed. It's just I have to let them. And that's the other thing is
Mhm.
like he and I were just talking about him moving up to Minnesota and how it was hard it was for me. And I had to go through the let him. He has to do this for some reason and it's beyond my understanding. So like really letting go and letting it be. It's a very healthy way to be, I guess. So they
Absolutely.
say.
That's what I've heard. It's not always easy. And it's the let them comes in too because like when Lydia came to me and told me that she and John don't want to have children, like they want to be child free, I grieved that a little bit. Like I literally, like I not to her face, I said, "Oh, okay, well that you do you. I will support you in whatever your decisions are." But I grieved not being a grandmother because she's my only child. So like I grieved that a little bit
Yeah.
and came to terms with it. And I'm perfectly fine with it now. I really am. It's like, hey, I'm not spending money on grandchildren. Like, it's not a bad thing. And I get to spend time with my daughter without her being distracted by, children running around and all those things. Not that children aren't
Yeah.
a blessing and all those things, but if you don't want them, then they aren't a blessing to you. And so
Yeah.
I support her and didn't try to dissuade her. And I've never, even before she told me that, I never went to her and said, "So when are you guys gonna have kids?" Because it's not my business. Like she is an adult person and I'm only allowed the information that she wants to share with me, and that's okay. And that's where, the let them is a healthy thing for sure. I can appreciate
Yep.
that. I can appreciate that. You keep freezing. I know you're having problems with your internet. You probably are not hearing
Yeah.
me when your internet freezes up
I am
too.
hearing you. Yeah, but it
Okay,
does
good.
freeze every bit. I think it's
Yeah.
can I blame the teenager and say she's probably playing some video game upstairs? That's
You
what it's going to be
absolutely
like all
can.
summer long for me, all summer long. So
Yep.
wish me luck. 799 days worth of luck.
To quote a off-quoted movie, may the odds be ever in your favor.
Indeed.
I love it. Well,
I guess I've
whoever who
volunteered as tribute.
exactly, like, "Put me in the game, coach. It's okay if I don't come out."
Must be
Oh,
what it is.
whoever's listening, wherever you are in your journey, whatever frustrations and successes and everything else you are experiencing, take a deep breath. Let the things happen that have to happen. Lean into the good things. Succeed anyway. Persevere anyway, build anyway, all of those things. We'll put a link to that um, paradoxical commandments in the show notes.
Yeah.
So if you want to read them again, you will have access to them. But thank you for hanging in there with us. And good night, Mr. Hindle, wherever you are.
Good night, Mike. And bye,
Bye.
everyone else.
Bye. This has been WP Motivate with Kathy Zant and Michelle Frechette. To learn more or to sponsor us, go to WPMotivate.com.